Nerdist news, assemble! We got a sneak peek at the MCU's Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel's costume has been revealed, and we got our first look at it during an open house at the Marvel Studio headquarters last night. Members of the press, including our own Dan Casey and Nerdist editor-in-chief Rachel Hine, got an up-close and personal look at concept art for Brie Larson's outfit for the upcoming films. Now, while the visit was jam-packed with more tasty treats than we could have possibly hoped for, including some brand new Black Panther footage and an advanced screening of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the thing that got us most excited was a simple piece of concept art for Captain Marvel. For 10 years now, we've been waiting for Marvel to let a female superhero fly solo, and even though this was but the tiniest of glimpses of the eventual film, actually seeing it in person felt like a huge moment. Of course, the whole affair was a no cameras allowed type of deal, so we couldn't sneak out any actual images of said concept art. But who needs pictures when you have the painterly words of our very own editor-in-chief, Rachel Hine? Rachel described what she saw in a post that you can read right now on Nerdist.com, and according to her, Captain Marvel's suit will draw a lot of aesthetic inspiration from her current comic book suit, including the classic red, blue, and gold color scheme with the 8-pointed star emblem on her chest. However, the material will be less form-fitting spandex and more military-grade armor, similar in execution to what we saw from Ant-Man's suit. Now, her iconic sash has also been reimagined as a utility belt, making that particular element of her costume a bit more practical than just looking super cool. Naturally, we attempted to find the best representation of the concept art costume in the comics, but after lots of scouring, we eventually realized this really is an all-new iteration of the Captain Marvel design, much more in line with what we've seen from other heroes in the MCU than anything we could find on the page. In fact, the closest thing we spotted to really give you an idea of what it looked like was this bit of fan art from deviant artist Jamie Faye X. Looking at it here, you can see it's slightly bulkier and a lot tougher than the skin-tight spandex we usually see in the comics for this character, and you'll also notice her hand is glowing, which was actually part of the second piece of concept art Dan and Rachel scoped out at the event. In that one, Captain Marvel was flying into battle about to pound the stuffing out of a Kree sentry with her supercharged arm. In addition to just being incredibly cool, this may also give us our first glimpse at a post-Infinity War MCU. Why are the Kree here on Earth? Are they holdovers from Thanos' invasion, or has our planet just become a hotbed of intergalactic action now that we've hosted our first big intergalactic war? It's hard to say, but definitely gives us a ton to speculate on between now and when she eventually hits the big screen. And of course, who's to say that any of this is actually going to be realized on film exactly as it was seen in the concept art? Certainly not Jonathan Schwartz, VP Production and Development for Marvel Studios. As he was presenting the piece to the press, he specified that this is all very much in the early stages, and this artwork was really just cooked up to get the creative talent involved hyped about the project. However, he did go on to say that they showed this costume designed to star Brie Larson, and it got her incredibly excited, so you have to imagine it won't stray too far from what we described here. But hey, why go on and on describing it secondhand when we can talk to somebody who saw it with his own eyes, Dan Casey. I was gonna say get on over here, but you're already here.
Surprise.
Oh my gosh.
I was early.
Why don't you
My mom dropped me off and I just had to wait here.
Aw. Why don't you make us all incredibly jealous about your trip to Marvel Studios?
Don't mind if I do. It was awesome. They had an open house yesterday for a bunch of assembled press before the first screening of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which, pretty good. You'll learn more about that on April 24th. Check for our review. We got to see behind-the-scenes footage from Black Panther, including the first dailies from the set, so we got to see some fight scenes from Black Panther. The movie looks awesome. Taika Waititi was there to introduce a new character that he's playing. He's playing a character in Thor Ragnarok, a mocap character, Korg, a Cronin warrior, who's going to be sort of like Thor's guide to the Grandmaster's weird fighting pits. We also got to see a bunch of awesome concept art from Ant-Man and the Wasp and Spider-Man Homecoming VFX footage, including one shot that confirmed that Logan Marshall Green is indeed playing the Shocker, which may not come as a shocker to you, but I was surprised. But the coolest thing we saw far and away was the very first concept art of Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. You described pretty much exactly what I saw earlier, but one of the coolest things I thought was a lot of people were wondering, what's her hair gonna look like? Is she gonna have the mohawk? Is she gonna have long hair? It's somewhere in between. They found a happy medium. No, it was really awesome to see as a fan of Captain Marvel. It looked really natural and great to see her in that costume, even though it was concept art and very early on in the process. It might change between now and then. For example, there's no sash that people might be looking for. It's more of a utility belt. But one of the things I was really excited to see was the other one where she's fighting what appears to be, I think, Kree sentries, which, if you know anything about her origin story, Kree play a major role in that. And if you want to learn more about her origin story, check out my episode of The Dan Cave in which I break down her comic book history. You can find it right here on this website and or channel, wherever you're watching.
Well, God, well done, Dan. That was good. There you have it, folks. Straight from the horse's mouth. There you go. But what about you guys? Are you psyched to finally see the Captain Marvel movie is actually happening? And what do you think about the early stages of her costume design? And while we're at it, what other female Marvel heroes are long overdue for a trip to the big screen?
She-Hulk.
Or just let Dan tell you.
She-Hulk.
Let's discuss.
She-Hulk.
Be sure to tune in to Mothership this Thursday at 5:30 p.m. PST for a special Toypocalypse edition of the show. Woo! We're giving away over 100 collectibles, which is pretty much 1.6 a minute. You can check out all the details over at Join Team Alpha on Twitter. Bye.